Hey, listen, injuries could play a big part of the SEC championship game, and there's a lot going on that front. I wanted to touch on three guys. We got some updates yesterday on Sunday from Kirby Smart and Brian Kelly, the head coach at at LSU. The Tigers coming off of a lopsided loss to Texas A&M over the weekend. There were a couple of questions about Marvin Jones, who Kirby says has an ankle sprain. He's played sort of in a reserve role for Georgia. Zion Logue, if I remember what Kirby said exactly, it was the Kentucky game where he was kind of dinged up. Kirby said that he's going to be fine. Jaden Daniels is the quarterback for the quarterback is kind of the concern right now at LSU because he was in a walking boot. It is not a high ankle sprain. It looked like he got popped a couple times against Texas A&M. Brian Kelly said that that's something that they're monitoring, and they're hoping he can play practice by Tuesday. I think it looks like the guy's going to try to play, but I'll tell you, that's not an ideal situation to roll into with Georgia. And the line has kind of settled down at about 17 and a half points. I think there was some real concern on Sunday before the announcement from Brian Kelly about the future of his quarterback, Daniels. It jumped up to 20. So we'll just watch it as it goes. You've got to be at 100%. And what'll happen is it might not hurt you at first, kind of, but over time, that can get aggravated during a game. It's just a frustrating, injury to have to deal with as a student athlete. It's not what you want, but yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, this got up to as high as 21 points. Now, that seems like a lot, but it was kind of seeing and sawing for a while there. But right now it's sitting at about 17 and a half, so it's gotten beat down from a high of 21 not that long ago, like within the last 24 hours. So there is some real concern from bettors about the injury, the status of the starting quarterback at LSU. For Georgia, I think there's hope that AD Mitchell comes back for this game. Whether that will happen or not, we can't ever seem to know. But I do anticipate him playing this year. I just don't know if it will be. He dressed out. I saw him. I saw him dressed out against Georgia Tech. I never saw him play, and I'm going right now to look to see if he was accounted for in that game. I know that people talk about Claude Felton all the time. If you don't know who that is, he's the sports information director who Vince Dooley got to come to Georgia in the 1980s, excuse me, in the 1970s, and has been uh, their point person for some time up there. But AD has not played since the Auburn game, and so he did dress out, which I thought I saw him out there, but he did not play. And a week ago, Kirby was pretty hopeful that AD would be able to kind of get going and play because Georgia's going to need him. I mean, I think that the more explosive players you have, the better. Listen, y'all, I'm going to run out of these books. I can already see it. This is a Kelee Ringo autographed DAWGSTRUCTION. Make sure you're going over to the landing page for that. The link is down below. We've sold 10 this morning, and I can tell you we can't stand many more days of that before we're going to be out. So make sure you're taking advantage of this. Kelee was really awesome to do that, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do it in the future. So take advantage now while we're knocking on the door of Christmas and New Year's and to celebrate Georgia's 2021 national championship. We'll see if they have a 2022, right? I mean, I don't think it's out of the question at all for this program to continue moving forward. Um, the LSU game, I was talking to a reporter last night, and the LSU game is one is it's the SEC championship. We are not hearing the same sort of I don't know about. I always use the term panic because I feel like that's a good way to describe stuff. We are not the LSU can't win the game and go to the playoff. This is the first time that I can remember that both teams are basically trying to win the SEC championship. Like there's nothing further. If Georgia loses, they're going to get in. If Tennessee wins, excuse me, if LSU wins, they're not. So we've gotten to the point where we've got a very settled college football playoff discussion. It's basically down to 6 teams. If the 4 teams coming into this thing win, then there's nothing else to talk about. It's just going to be those teams. So I don't think that I think it does take away from the game a little bit. I think ticket prices on secondary markets have fallen. We've seen that a little bit here lately. But I think, to me, when you get in there, you're going to see that people are going to be very excited for this game and this moment. And just Georgia playing a big game in Atlanta, where you play big games, that's the atmosphere is not going to be as electric as it was last year because Georgia's not playing Alabama, and Alabama's not going for everything. Um, but you'll see. I mean, this will be an electric atmosphere inside the building, but I don't know if it will translate on television the same way. I think it's going to be tough for LSU to win this game. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback who does not get to go on Monday, who's been rehabilitating on today and yesterday. The way LSU played at Texas A&M, just not an ideal situation. So I think all things equal, if Jaden Daniels was not banged up, he's really gotten better over time. I mean, if you look at his, the way that he's been from the beginning of the season until the end, I mean, it did take some settling down for LSU. I think that's the biggest thing to remember about where they're at right now in their journey. But he's made a lot of plays. I mean, he was not horrible against Florida State, 25 of 34 for 209, 2 touchdowns. Now, he was sacked 4 times. He does get sacked. He's been sacked 40 times. That may be part of him trying to do too much. That may be a part of, hey, he runs it anyway. But like against Mississippi in what was a big game, 21 of 28 for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the ground, he was 23 runs for 121 yards. A week later, in the overtime win over Alabama, 22 of 32, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, 18 attempts, 95 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. I mean, if you don't get that guy, it changes LSU. Because he's the kind of guy that LSU has sort of always had. It's like these freaks, right? And um, John Emery is a good running back. He's going to wear on you over time. But if you don't have Daniels at the level you'd like him to be at, then that's going to be problematic because y'all listen, if he's not running, he's not quite, you know, the same, I guess you could say. But um, I think that's what you should watch if you're Georgia in this and LSU too. And I think that's what bettors are watching is just really where is Jaden Daniels at because his movement is so critical to the way that he plays. They did not play well against Texas A&M. There's really the Arkansas game, Daniels, which was a weather game. I don't think he played real well there. He did not play well against Auburn, but for the most part, he's played well this year. And you can't say LSU's not played in big games. Florida State, Mississippi State, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas A&M. And you see me yawning. The season can grind on you, man, and it's a lot. But what I would say is knowing where Daniels is at right now, you can't let him get loose. Georgia's going to make a game plan for him not getting loose. Bo Nix didn't really get loose. Bo Nix hardly ever got loose against Georgia. So it's going to be, can you, as Hank Stram would say, can you matriculate the ball down the field? Can you consistently move the ball? And I would say that's hard enough as it is. He's a playmaking quarterback, no doubt about it. But if he's banged up, that changes the arithmetic.